keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the live stream. I'm looking forward to interacting with everyone.
Absolutely.
Talking combine, talking players, talking free agency, talking whatever 49ers talk. But it's been a long time for us and the Cutback crew, so I'm looking forward to getting into it.
And I'm really looking forward to getting into it as well. And look, I mean, there's a lot of things happening right now. Holy guacamole. Listen, I thought there were going to be some high times today in the wide receiver room. I was a little surprised with some of the high times that came out of the tight end position early in the day. But my goodness gracious almighty, Ant, this second group of wide receivers is breaking the drafts right now. It's breaking the draft combine. Some of these times that are getting posted by this wide receiver group are nuts. They're absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, Tyquan Thornton has broken John Ross's record of 4.22. He ran a 4.21. If he runs again, he could possibly break 4.2. That's ridiculous speed coming out of Baylor there. 6'2", 177 pounds, and he runs a legit 4.240. I mean, track speed is there. Does it translate onto the field? Well, yeah, it does, because one of my star players.
He did. It was one of your star guys. Is a guy that I've been keeping my eye on and just started getting into film with the wide receiver position. It was a guy that I highlighted to watch more film of because I like what I see out of it. Tell you what, 4.2, 140, I'm going to be watching a lot more film of Thornton, man. Thornton's been getting a lot of film. And thanks for the $4.99 super chat from 49ers George 365. Let's get into it. Absolutely, my guy. We need to get into it because there are crazy things happening right now. Christian Watson just ran a 4.28 not that long ago as well. And there are some nutso times happening at the wide receiver position. And it's nice. We're going live right now, and the combine, day one of the combine is still going on currently. There are guys out there doing stuff right now for workouts and things of that nature. So this is exciting, man. I'm really looking forward to diving into all of this, man.
Yeah, if you thought the 49ers fans were high on Christian Watkins,
Oh, they're going to be stupid high on it now. And look, I didn't think I didn't know what the speed was going to be.
Right.
I thought it was going to be maybe like mid 4.3 area, somewhere in there. And I like those things. And, you and I got into it on the members only live stream about Christian Watson because I've been a little hesitant to just be like on the, oh my God, this dude's amazing. And I've watched a little bit more film and I've come around a little bit on him. I'm not as down on Christian Watson as I was before. I still think he rounds some routes off, but I think there's a lot of potential and promise in what he does. On top of the fact that he posted, I think it was an 11-inch broad jump, over 11 feet on the broad jump. That is absolutely nuts. This is bonkers. On top of the speed, on top of the fact that he's 6'4", and posted one of the higher verts. Well, I think top 5 in the vert category as well at the moment. Measurables, all the things we talk about in terms of things you can't teach. You can't teach a lot of these things. You're just naturally gifted with them. He has a lot of those things.
Yeah, a lot of them are very explosive. These guys are tremendous athletes, and some of these times are way better than I thought. But the thing is just because they get a certain time in the combine, it doesn't mean that translates to the field. So
correct.
When you're watching the film and you see the speed, then that's one thing. But when you're watching and they do one thing in the combine and then you don't see it on the field, you worry about that translating. If it's not going to translate,
I feel like you're talking about a certain wide receiver out of Georgia.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Pickens is somebody that I struggle with because to me, I mean, I know he's supposed to be like a first round talent. And a lot of people say he's for sure a second round pick. To me, sometimes I struggle to see it, but he ran a 4.4 today, a legit 4.4, 4.43, and then a 4.4. So he's got that kind of speed, but do those things translate to the field? And that's what's going to be important. We not just talk about what happens in the combine. Combine's cool. The times are cool to talk about, but how it translates on the field is the most important.
And Khalil Shakur is getting ready to run his 40, and
he ran a 4.4, so he's ran a 4.35 and a 4.4.
So he's run a 4.35 and a 4.4. So it's a guy who's right in that kind of in that range. Anton, let the Cutback crew get a little bit of look of that run there from Mr. Khalil Shakur out of Boise State. A guy that you and I both like a little bit there, and a lot of the things that we've seen on film from this guy. There's a lot happening, a butt ton happening, Ant. with these guys and their times.
Yeah, he's a star player for me.
Yes, I was going to say, he was actually one of the first names I think you and I talked about that we both really, really liked. So right now, in terms of times from the wide receiver position, you have Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor, who ran a 4.21. You had Chris Olave, the wide receiver at Ohio State. Then you and I are we're up and down on this guy. We're not 100% sold on him, but he ran a 4.26. Christian Watson ran a 4.28. Velus Jones, a guy that we're very big on, out of Tennessee, 4.31. Calvin Austin III out of Memphis ran a 4.32. Alec Pierce, another guy that you and I like, and a couple of the members of the Cutback crew were talking about in the members only live stream, ran a 4.33. Also posted the highest vertical of the day at 40 inches. Danny Gray out of SMU and 4.33 as well. Bo Melton, 4.34. Khalil Shakur, 4.35. Garrett Wilson ran a 4.37. That actually surprises me. That's the guy opposite of Chris Olave. I didn't think Garrett Wilson was a 4.3 guy. I pegged him more in that 4.4, 4.5 range.
Right.
He ran a 4.37. That's impressive numbers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, these guys are putting out just impressive numbers. Right now, Trey Turner is running, and he just ran a 4.50. So Trey Turner at a 4.50 and a 4.4, you're slow. Like, that is what's going on with the receivers right now.
That is
if you're
crazy.
running at that level, you are just slow. I mean, these guys are putting together all-time numbers. This is an impressive class. The athletes that are going to be on display in this draft is impressive. So the 49ers are looking for somebody to take the top off the defense, Alex.
It's true.
Seems like we're going to have our...
Oh, you're gonna have a plethora.
Yeah,
if you got 4.5 is looking like the slow times right now. That is absolutely insane. That is absolutely crazy, right? Because we've seen George Kittle break away from defenders. He's a 4.5 guy. This is nuts. Brad Jones, and sometimes if you run really fast, you also drive a little too fast in Vegas. Come on, Brad.
So Christian Watson just ran again, and this time he ran a 4.31. So he ran a 4.28 and a 4.31.
Here it is right here. This is the run here. 4.28 was the first one. 4.31 on this one right here from Mr. Christian Watson. He's a 4.3, high 4.2 guy. That's what he is. That's game-breaking speed.
You think? That's plenty fast enough.
More than fast enough.
That's crazy speed.
It's almost too much speed.
At 6'4",
you can never have too much
211 pounds, and you run that kind of speed. That's the kind of guy you would love to put in the slot with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk around him. I mean, to me, that's a tremendous opportunity for the 49ers. But will they have a chance? Will he be there at 61?
After this kind of performance, I doubt it.
Well, I don't know, since everyone else is running at that speed.
Well,
too.
I mean, you're not wrong there, and there are questions about his route running. I still question his route running. So if you have teams that look at that and be like, well, he's gonna have a limited route tree, how much of an impact can he have in the system right now with this year than being a deep threat? Then you may have teams who maybe shy away from that to go with some of these other names up here that probably a little bit more polished route runners who can do more to impact on the field. And in those cases, in those situations, I say, thank you to those teams. Please make that decision because I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect a 4.2.
Well, the report coming out too is right. The Niners met with, or the Niners have contacted Christian Watson. So
stunned by that.
He's somebody that's on their list. Also, James Cook, who is Dalvin Cook's brother, somebody else that they've met with as well. So looks like the Niners are going to, of course, do their due diligence, but there's a lot of options in the wide receiver room. Some of these guys, the talent shows up in a big way on the field, and some of these guys are going to kind of be eye-opening to where you're going to want to take more looks at their film. And I think that's what we're seeing. Somebody like, Velus, to me, he jumped off on film, but that he maybe wasn't getting the attention as most mock drafts had him going in the 7th round. He will not be a 7th-round pick with a 4.3 speed. I look for him to move up. Somebody like Danny Gray as well, who I told you, I really like him a lot.
One of your most favorite guys coming out is this Gray guy.
From SMU.
And actually, when you brought him up, I actually pointed at you and said yes. And the only reason I knew about it was because of the Calcaterra film that I watched, the tight end out of SMU, and he popped. When you're watching Calcaterra film, it's very hard to miss Gray and what he's doing there for SMU, for that Mustangs team. Trey Turner, yes, JLA. Trey Turner is the Virginia Tech wide receiver. He ran a 4.44 is what he ran. So definitely not in that 4.3 category, but you're talking mid to low 4.4s, and that is considered not a top 10 time in this wide receiver 40 time is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, these guys are flying. I mean, anytime you're hitting the 4.2, 4.3 range, you're really fast.
That's game breaking speed.
It is, and the 49ers have 2 wide receivers currently under contract in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and we all believe that exclusive rights free agent, DeJuan Jennings will be back. But they've got some decisions. So maybe the 49ers would address wide receiver in this draft. I would not be opposed to them getting a couple young guys to fill up this roster.
Take 2.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 9 picks. Presumably you're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, get a 10th pick. You could use 2. If you use them on the right guys, you could get guys who do different things in your offense. We know Kyle Shanahan, knows how to use certain guys in certain ways. So get some guys that can do some different things. Somebody that can take the top off the defense is something important. Someone like a Christian Watson, I think that's why everyone's been excited about him. Not to mention the times that he lined up in the backfield and did some things that way as well. So there's some flexibility with him. So that height, that speed, you got to take a look at it. That's something that we know Kyle Shanahan's been looking for, a bigger type guy. Who had a lot of great things to say about Trey Lance as well. He said Trey Lance is a real leader. Trey Lance is one of those guys that's doing the things right. In fact, Alex, you'll love this because it's kind of an inside joke with us in the coaching. He said Trey Lance is a dude.
Oh, nice. Gotta love those dudes, bro. You gotta love those dude bros.
Gotta have dudes.
You gotta have dudes. And if you don't have dudes, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You just don't know. Look, there's a lot of names and there's a lot of positive things going on. And KNDR just, he's been upped, but 6-month Cutback crew member used his super chat here. Sup, dudes? Gotta watch the replay because I decided to hurt myself and go to the Kings game. Let's hope it doesn't hurt me too much. # I'm the real Cutback League champ. You're definitely not the real Cutback League champ, Caleb. You're definitely not that. But you are the People's Champ in the Cutback League, so there's that, Ant. There's that.
Yeah.
JLA says Gray and Roberson. Those are the 2 wide receivers out of SMU.
Yeah, last year, Roberson kind of came up onto my radar. I happened to catch some film on him, and I really liked him. I haven't got too much into Roberson this year yet. I've already broke down over 30 wide receivers. But Danny Gray was the guy that absolutely popped on film for me. In fact, I told Alex I went back and watched some more film yesterday because there's something about him that I just really like. Most mock drafts had him going in the 7th round, which is absolute travesty. This guy should go way higher than that. And I think after putting up this time, he will definitely jump up a lot of the mock drafts. But he's definitely to me a 4th round guy right now. That doesn't mean he's not going to continue to go up, especially once he gets to the pro days and all that. So I'm excited about him. I wouldn't mind having him on the roster as well.
Would not mind it either, Ant. That would not be a negative thing at all for the San Francisco 49ers. And a couple people had asked, do you think it's deep at the wide receiver in this draft? I don't know if it's deep necessarily in terms of like incredible route running wide receivers, but in terms of speed and guys who can change a game in one play, I think you have that aplenty. I mean, it's very obvious now that you have that aplenty. Does speed always translate? It doesn't always translate to being able to be game breaking. But I think there are more guys than not in this draft that you could draft and do something with. Kyle Shanahan specifically. And you and I have already kind of locked in and zeroed in on 2 or 3 names who I think the San Francisco 49ers in their scheme would potentially be game breaking in a rookie campaign.
Yeah, I think there's players in this draft that you're like, oh wow, these guys are very talented. This is not the same class that Brandon Ayuk came out of.
No,
when you had Ayuk and Justin Jefferson and all those guys were just tremendous because it went so deep, right? I mean, you were still getting into the later rounds and you had Tyler Johnson and you had all these other guys and it's like, wow, this is Chase Claypool. All these guys were so talented all throughout the draft. I think that this is a very talented group, but I don't think they're as I think they're more green than that group was, right? The other group was way better at running routes. There were more complete wide receivers,
complete developed wideouts in the previous classes.
Yes. It was just you had everything you could ask for in that class. So in that regard, I think it's different. But when you're looking at tremendous athletes, this is one, and that's what's cool about the 49ers because the 49ers already have 2 of those dynamic players in Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. You're looking for a specific kind of player, maybe 2 specific kind of players, and there are a couple guys in this draft, especially, that fit the mold of maybe what the 49ers are doing. And I think that's what's going to be cool when we start getting into the draft process. People can see the way the 49ers are probably going to attack this. And the guys that we're talking about have put up good numbers today. So it looks like not only does their film state that they will be good players for the 49ers, but their numbers also prove that as well.
Oh, 100%, Ant. That is definitely something that is happening right now. And you got some guys who are just kind of freak measurements all over the board. There's a handful of guys who are coming up at the top of the list in the 40, the vertical, and the broad jump. Alec Pierce is one of them out of Cincinnati. Isaiah Weston has been near the top. Calvin Austin, another guy who's been near the top. Christian Watson has been near the top as well. Tyquan Thornton, a guy who's been in the top 10 in pretty much all of these categories. Alec Pierce is actually the vertical leader. That actually stunned me. It surprised me. 40-inch, 40.5 now is the official number on the vertical for him. So he inches out Isaiah Weston there by just a little bit.
And London didn't do anything, right?
No, London
because London can do a 540 dunk.
Yes.
So
he's probably got at least a 42.
But I think the cool thing about Alec is he's so impressive because he's got some size to him as well. And so he's the poor man version of London. So if you wanted to get London in the top 10 and you're not there, you can now get Alec later on in the draft, probably now late first round, early second round. But there's a lot of talent, a lot of potential there.
Going into the NFL draft, the NFL has a prospect grade out on Alec Pierce. You ready for it, Ant? 5.99. He's an average backup or special teamer is what they have listed here.
Yeah.
For him here. After this performance, that is not the case.
No, he's a starter. I mean, he is. He's a starting wide receiver. And I think he's a red zone threat. I mean, well, I'll go ahead and bring up my notes on him. Alec Pierce competes for the ball every single time. He's smooth and athletic. He likes to high point the ball, red zone threat, and he consistently made catches. That was something that I really liked.
Holy cow, Ant. $70 super chat from Android user. Welcome back from your break, guys.
Thank you, Android user.
Android user.
Well, yeah.
You absolute savage of a man. Holy cow. Holy cow. And we missed you. We missed all of you.
Yes.
No, and it's not weird that you missed us. We missed all of you guys as well.
Big time.
It wasn't an odd break. It was a necessary break. It was a needed break, not because we were burnt out or anything, but because we needed to start diving into draft prep. And it's really hard to do that when you're posting daily video and daily content and live streaming a couple times a week. It's tough. It's difficult. So we just needed that time to kind of just make sure that we did our due diligence. We looked at free agency. We started working on draft prep. So that way we could get a little bit ahead. And when we get a little bit closer to draft time, we've covered as many people as humanly possible.
We're definitely not ahead.
No.
I feel like every single day there's a new prospect, somebody new to go through. So yeah, I mean, every day somebody tags me on Twitter or sends me a DM or a text message. Hey, check this guy out. And then I go down the rabbit hole because I check him out, and then somebody else pops on film and I check them out. Yeah, this is a never-ending story, and I think we got a lot to go, but there's a lot of great, promising talent in this draft.
100%. 324. By the way, 324 participants, 324 people invited. Feels like a bigger number than typical, and it shows because Ant, they're going. They got another 3 hours. They got another 3 hours to do, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe another wide receiver group just started doing stuff because they just started updating certain things with the bench press and things of that nature, and with some new names that I hadn't seen coming through. So Justin Ross, a name out of Clemson that a lot of people are very familiar with, looks like he is a part of that next group that's going to be doing some things as well. So very, very interesting. This is going to be a late night for the draft, a late night for the draft combine anyway.
Yeah, I mean, people are watching the combine now. That's just how it is. I remember we kind of had a joke about this with Evan because he said no one watches it, and I'm like, I do. The combine is something I'm interested in. I'm less interested in seeing like exactly what they run and all that. Like I'm more interested in seeing how they take, running the routes and doing the different things and the drills and stuff. But it's more just confirming what you already see on film. You don't use this time to like discover players. Use it more like, oh yeah, that's what I've been seeing on film. It kind of confirms things, right? So when I told you I thought that Watson was a 4.3 guy, he confirmed it, right? He ran even a little bit faster than that. So you just want to make sure that the eye test is matching what you see, and that's what's good about the combine. We know John Lynch already said the main reason he likes the combine is the interviews. That's what's important to him. I would love to be able to sit there in those interviews that the coaches and the personnel group, personnels have with these players, because then you can learn a lot about who these guys are, because he's right. It's about them wanting to play football, them wanting to be better football players. Those are the kind of players you want on your team, not the guys who are just kind of going through the motions.
Very accurate, Ant. Brad Jones says, I was hoping they'd take a real speed guy in this draft class, and by the sounds of it, there's a few in this draft. There's more than a few. There's definitely more. A few, right, means 3, 4, maybe 5 guys. There's more than 3 or 4. There's about 15.
The question is how many of these guys are going to fall too, because there's going to be a huge run on defensive ends.
There's going to be a huge run on D ends.
Yeah.
You have to imagine there's going to be a fairly decent sized run on linemen too, in terms of like top end linemen. Maybe not necessarily early in the first round, but probably late first, early second.
The problem is there as many top-end linemen? Because I don't see those guys right now. There's a couple of can't-miss prospects.
There's a couple of
else.
big names, yes.
And then there's kind of more late-round talent that you would like to take advantage on. I think that the edge rusher is the main one. I wouldn't be surprised if double-digit edge rushers are taken there in the first 40 picks, because I think it's one of those positions that pops on film. There's a lot of great players, but then I think this receiving group is going to get the attention of everyone with the speed. And whenever you couple the quick change of direction of some of these guys with their speed, or with somebody like Watson who's got the height, or Alec Pierce who's got height to go with it, and the body structure, these guys are promising guys. And you've seen the impact that somebody like Chase Claypool's had in the league. You look at these guys and you're like, wait, are they similar? Are these guys the same? We know where London's going to go, but where's everyone else going to go?
Drake London is one of the best prospects in the entire draft. Yeah. Anyway, so JLA, I think it asked top broad jump. So top broad jump right now is Christian Watson at 11.4. Calvin Austin the third out of Memphis, then 11.3. Isaiah Weston 11.3. He's out of Northern Iowa. Devin Williams out of Oregon 11.1. Kevin Austin Jr. out of Notre Dame. He's actually put together quite an impressive day, and actually a name that you and I didn't necessarily write off, but wasn't a name that we were heavily looking into. After today's performance, I got some Kevin Austin film to start watching. And put up an 11 on the broad jump. Tyquan Thornton, a guy that you and I both have looked at, 10.10. Alec Pierce with a 10.9. Jalen Naylor out of Michigan State, 10.8. Ty Freifogel out of Indiana, a 10.7. Arik Azukanma, I've totally butchered that name, and I apologize, Eric, 10.6. Danny Gray at SMU, a 10.6 as well, Ant.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't surprise me. My question with Danny Gray was less about and also less about his skill set, and just more about his competition level, like who he's playing against. But now that I know he has the top end speed and the top end athletic ability, I would like to think that could translate. So I'm excited about the way he presents himself as a wide receiver. I'm talking about presenting himself to the football, making the catch without slowing down, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're going to hear me talk a lot about Danny Gray. I mean, last year I talked a lot about Shi Smith. The year before that, it was a lot about Chase Claypool. So Danny Gray is one of those guys that he's one of my favorite guys in the draft, and I find late round guys that I like, and he's one of those. And I don't think he's going to be a late round guy no more. Kind of like Amir Smith-Marset last year. Yeah, that guy kind of jumped on my screen eventually, and I really liked him as well.
Agreed. They're just starting the gauntlet aspect here for this wide receiver group, the second group. They're going to be getting into route running after that. So when we get into some more of the route running itself and them running actual routes, and as Rich Eisen says, something that actually translates into actual football other than the gauntlet, because Rich Eisen absolutely hates this aspect of the draft combine. We'll get into that, or if we see a guy that we like doing some cool stuff, we'll pan to it. But look, at the end of the day, right, with the draft, with the combine itself, what you're trying to get a feel for is, what skill sets, number one, that you watch on film, what skill sets translate, right? Are they translating out here into certain things? If you think a guy's fast on film, does it translate in his 40 time? If you think a guy's slow on film and he comes out and runs a slow 40, is it translating? If you think a guy has drop issues, then a thing like the gauntlet is actually kind of a great thing for you, because you can take a look at a guy, watch what he's doing, and see if he's got issues, going out and catching the ball in space. Does he have issues, gearing down? Does he slow down? Does he have confidence? That's one of the things I saw with the tight end drill, with the tight ends in the gauntlet. A lot of these tight ends, a couple of them, there's question marks in terms of catching the football. And when you watch them do the gauntlet, Ed, you can see them kind of gearing down a little bit to make sure they secure the ball in space before they run. One of the guys who didn't do that was Hayward, who Gary, 49ers Fogies, brought up earlier. Hayward just blew through that thing at full speed.
Yeah.
That guy has no fear. He does a lot of things really, really well. He's an interesting draft prospect, that's for sure.
Yeah, because you don't exactly know what he's going to play, right? He's one of those guys with a lot of versatility.
Yes.
I've done 3 different mock drafts. One of them had him listed as a fullback, one as a running back, and one as a tight end. Yep. So you don't know exactly what he is. I think what he is really is a football player. But yeah, he's Gary's guy this year. I can't remember exactly who Gary's guy was last year, but I remember that it was constantly, right? I remember it was a big, tall receiver.
Out of Texas Tech. Why am I blanking on this?
Yeah. So Gary has definitely latched on to Hayward this year.
Watson does look smooth. Avatar says, question is, will he be there in the 4th round? He will not be there in the 4th round.
No.
Christian Watson will not be there in the 4th round. Everything that he's done today has secured he is going to be somewhere in the 2nd.
If the 49ers want to get him, there's a chance they might not be able to get him at 61. They might have to come up to get him. I think he's a 2nd round pick right now, and that doesn't mean that he's not going to move up as this continues to go on, because it's not like there's that many 6'4", 6'5" receivers that move like him with 4.3 speed. So I mean,
there he is right there.
Yeah, I mean these guys are good. These guys are smooth. So I think he's definitely earning some extra money. He's a 2nd round pick, who I believe could even move all the way up into the 1st round, depending on how the rest of this stuff continues to trend, because you just never know. A player could start in the 5th round, and in 2 weeks, all of a sudden they're a 1st round pick. You just don't know.
No, you really don't. And look, at the end of the day here, with this draft, the nice thing is that there's a lot of options at this wide receiver position who have some of the size and speed stuff. There's a couple of different guys that do those types of things. So if you miss out on one, there are others. And some of them running a big thing. Route running is a big deal, not going in the first 2 rounds. Avatar, I agree with you on the route running being a big thing. There's one problem with taking route running into full consideration here, and that being the basis for dropping a guy 2 rounds. He's 6'4". He has the 2nd or 3rd best vertical in this entire draft. He's a top 5 speed guy in this entire draft. No one else has those measurables and can do those things and can take the top off the way that we've seen it on film already.
Well, the thing is you're also going to figure out what kind of system you're fitting him into.
Correct.
He's going to have a specific role playing for the 49ers.
I mean, can you tell me, too, with 100% certainty, that a team like Arizona, with a 2nd round pick, wouldn't take a guy like this?
Maybe. They took Rondale Moore. They got to replace Christian Kirk.
Correct.
Yeah, they would definitely take somebody like this.
Why wouldn't they?
He fits their system, and I believe that he fits the 49ers system as well. Deebo Samuel was not a great route runner coming out of college. They drafted him, and he's developed as a route runner. The development doesn't stop when you get to the NFL. What you're doing is you're kind of looking at what they could be, right? You're projecting. So when you're taking him right now, you know what he is, and then you've got to project what he could be and then develop him to get to that level. So route running plays into it. But what you want to look at is, does he have the traits to be a good route runner? If he has the traits to be a good route runner, then you draft him and you develop that. If he doesn't have those traits, he doesn't have the bend in his hips and his legs that you need, he doesn't have the flexibility, he's not able to get in and out of his break, then you know he's not able to do those things. So then you project him lower in the draft. It's that simple.
Correct. And then Aptar says, our need is smaller, faster wide receiver who can kick and punt return with kick or punt return skills. There are plenty of those.
Disagree.
Well, first off, there are plenty of those. You don't have to take one of those in the first 2 rounds.
Why do you think that the 49ers have trended towards bigger wide receivers?
Because they want wide receivers and who can go catch the jump ball, run every route in the route tree, catch the ball in the middle of the field, and run the football as a running back?
No, they want them so they can freaking block.
Oh, the run game aspect. Yeah, that's important.
You know what Travis Benjamin was? A complete liability in the blocking game. They want guys. That's why they've.
Hold on. Do you mean to tell me this is why Trent Sherfield also kind of role diminished once we got into the regular season?
Yeah, he wasn't a good enough blocker. These guys, they want him to block. So if you could get a fast guy who has the same athletic ability as one of the smaller guys, he can still do the return stuff, or you can have a running back do it, or a defensive back do it. All those things are common, but no, you're looking to draft somebody that can take your offense to the next level. It doesn't have to be a small guy. It can be a tall guy.
TJ Vasher was the guy's name. Gary didn't even have to put it in the chat. I just remembered TJ Vasher.
Well done. Yeah.
TJ Vasher, Gary is on his Connor Hayward, and he is all over it right now. Avatar thinks our priorities are edge, interior O-line, and cornerback. I think it's hard.
He's not wrong.
As of right now, I mean, that's what it is. Reality is, though, is until free agency starts happening, until the Niners start signing players, we don't really know, who they're going to fully go after in the draft.
We don't, because, I mean, they could solve their cornerback issue, right? But let's say Matt Mayoko's been flirting around with the idea of them bringing in Stephon Gilmore. Richard Sherman confirmed that. If the 49ers went out and got Stephon Gilmore, brought back Jason Verrett, have Ambry Thomas, have Emmanuel Mosley, re-signed, K'Wan Williams, do you have a cornerback issue now? No.
Not really.
So you don't need cornerback in the draft if that happens. What you got to do is just wait and play it out and see how it goes.
Correct.
If you're going in and all of a sudden you don't have K'Wan Williams, you don't have Jason Verrett, you have Emmanuel Mosley, you have Ambry Thomas, then yes, it will become a huge priority, and that's when it will take effect. With the offensive line, if you re-sign Laken Tomlinson, and now you deem that Aaron Banks is ready to go, and you still got Jalen Moore, you bring back Compton and Brunskill as backups, then no, you don't have a need on the offensive line. It's more of a draft that you're gonna do just for depth. So free agency is gonna play a big part of this. But that's why we got to get through free agency before we can ever get to what the Niners draft needs. But from the outside in right now, or even what he's saying, that is correct, right? Those look like the apparent needs.
They do. They definitely do. Android user, totally way off topic. If we somehow land Brady next year, will our run blocking linemen be able to protect him? The drawbacks of their athleticism showed when we needed Jimmy to pass a lot. Look, I don't think it's a drawback. I think that Tom has won in a lot of different places with a lot of O-lines and teams built for different things. Tom's had teams that were built to run the football, and he had just I mean, he was fine throwing the football because he diagnoses and understands what teams are doing and where they're going to be. I mean, a clip got shown this year of Tom Brady mic'd up, doing a play action turnaround. It turns around and doing play action with Leonard Fournette. And as he's turning around and doing a handoff fake, he goes, "It's cover 4." And then comes out, immediately locates and finds where he wants to be in the zone and puts the ball in space. That's with his back turned. This guy has seen a lot of different things. He doesn't need a lot of time to get rid of the football. That's one of the nice things. And yeah, you want a guy who can extend plays, but that's why you have Trey Lance. If Tom Brady is a guy that you're moving forward with, you're moving forward with a better version of what you wanted Jimmy Garoppolo to be.
Yeah, I think that you're expecting Tom Brady to be able to get rid of the football at the same rate that Jimmy Garoppolo did from inside the pocket. And you believe that because Tom Brady's more of a threat in the passing game as far as the deep pass and some of the outside throws, that he would be able to keep defenses honest. They wouldn't be able to bring so many guys in and around the box, be able to get after you. So you would think the run game would actually be better for it. And if the run game is better for it, we all know that means you can set up play action type passes to help protect Mike McGlinchey, Laken Tomlinson, and this interior offensive line from struggling to stop the pass. The pass rush. So I think that you're just expecting Tom Brady effect to take effect. Do I think they would get to Tom Brady sometimes? Yes, I do, because he is a stationary target and he's somebody in the pocket. The one thing with Tom is he does know when to get rid of the football. He's very smart. Like you said, he's very cerebral about reading coverages and has an understanding. He would definitely know where these open receivers are supposed to be and could get the ball out. So those are things that you know Tom Brady can do. But yeah, I mean, you have different worries for each quarterback, right? But Trey Lance, it is not so much that he can't escape, but it's that he's going to hold the football too long and have to escape and miss the open target. With Tom Brady, it's not that he'll miss the open target, but that sometimes maybe there won't be an open target, and then he's a stationary target to get hit.
Correct, and that's one of the biggest concerns, right? That's one of the biggest issues and things that teams are worried about. Brad asked, who are you guys hoping is going to be named the special teams coordinator? I don't really know. There's some names and options and opportunities out there, but I'm not sure. I don't know who the front runner would be. I don't know if there's a guy that they have in mind.
Yeah, the one thing I know is Matt Miyoko. I listened to him this morning, in fact, and he said that the belief was that they were going to sign a guy with a lot of veteran experience. They were going to actually bring in somebody that was a veteran that was comfortable. I guess all those announcements are supposed to happen next week. The 49ers are going to. Kyle Shanahan is right now been meeting and confirming all those coaches, and he's going to have his coaching staff ready to roll. In fact, he's teaching a lot of the coaches right now, the guys that they brought in. They're learning scheme and getting set. So that is a big focus for Kyle Shanahan right now, and I think that they'll name somebody. But it's obvious there's always coaches available, coaches that have a lot of experience. Kyle Shanahan has not failed in the coaching department. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Everyone is coming up and nabbing his coaches because they're very talented. But he's also not willing to let somebody strong arm him either. I mean, look at Scangarello. Scangarello, he could have named Scangarello offensive coordinator.
Could have.
He could have named him, pass game coordinator, gave him a promotion and held on to him, but he didn't because he knew Scangarello wasn't the guy he wanted to, do that role. So now Scangarello's in Kentucky, so he'll just replace him with a better option.
Not wrong, Ed. He will replace him with a better option if that is the case. Some people want to know too, quarterback coach, who it may be, names that are out there and floating about. I'm not sure.
Slowick.
You think Slowick's the top guy?
Slowick was the pass game specialist last year. I think he's the most obvious choice if he promotes from within.
And then John Beck.
I think John Beck is too obvious. I think sometimes when you have a guy like that, they're just so obvious that it doesn't work out. Would I like John Beck? Yes. But could Kyle Shanahan honestly believe that actually working with Trey Lance all during the offseason is more beneficial for the 49ers and John Beck than it is to have him as the quarterback coach? I mean, could they irritate the NFL and wait and then hire John Beck after he works with Trey Lance all offseason?
Could.
Yeah, they could. But you remember how the NFL went after Kyle Shanahan for breaking rules during minicamp.
What?
Don't think that all of a sudden there wouldn't be minicamp issues and training camp issues. You got to be careful about how you go about irritating the Shield and the owners.
You do got to be a little bit careful, and they're picky about certain things. They're not picky about everything. Oh well, they are picky about a lot of things, but there's some things that just let slide.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is not one of those things. It looks like they're setting up right now for either corner route or deep out, and one of the two. So we'll pan to some of those. I panned earlier to Christian Watson there on the inside slant. He dropped that first one a little high. Well, ball went through his hands, but he took an extra rep at the end, made a nice clean catch and turned it upfield. So erase all doubts and fears.
I'm not worried about it. I seen it on film. You know what I mean? I'm not.
He doesn't drop a lot of balls on film.
No, he doesn't. And he's one of those guys that creates a tremendous separation. And we know he's going against lesser talent.
Correct.
But he also has some familiarity with Trey Lance. So you got to think that is something that's playing into the 49ers thought process and maybe why it makes him more of a reality and the natural inclination of 49er fans to want to connect the two dots, right? You want to put those two guys together.
Well, that's why originally I was unwilling to put the two dots together. Was just because he played with Trey at North Dakota State doesn't mean Jack diddly squat to me. And just because he's very talented and is beating lesser talent doesn't mean Jack diddly squat to me. And I watched a little bit of film, and the film that I watched, I tried to stay away from the highlights because the highlights are him just running deep routes. And it's like, I'm not getting anything from this.
You forgot all the stuff about him running out of the backfield.
Okay, so see, the first batch of highlights, but this is when we had our members only live stream conversation. I didn't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
All of the highlights stuff that I saw of him was him running verticals. And I got so fed up with it. I was like, I just need to try and watch a game. And I happened to pick, I think, the two worst games that I could have picked of him because it was one of him playing through an injury in 2021 and then him coming off of the injury in 2021 in which he was a little hobbled. So I was a little down. And then you and I talked a little bit more. Cutback crew got on me a little bit. And, you and I actually went through your notes a little bit more in depth of why you liked him so much. Yeah. I was like, okay, I got to give this more than a couple of games, obviously, and not just the highlights. And dove into a couple more games, a game or two with Trey Lance still as his quarterback, and then a couple other games before the injury early in the 2021 campaign, and was like, okay, well, I just happened to pick the worst possible games that I could have picked to watch film of Mr. Watson. This guy is obviously a talent, and he does like you said, the stuff out of the backfield was the stuff that kind of surprised me. I didn't expect it. And he's got pretty good vision. He sees things very well, gets his foot in the ground, gets upfield. I think at times he overruns some stuff, but I don't think it's because he doesn't see it. I think he's just so gosh darn fast that sometimes he overruns and overplays his hand a little bit, gets a little bit out in front ahead of his skis, and then sees something that's like, oh crap, I can get this here, and tries to come back to it. I think with time and the right coaching, I think also Deebo Samuel would help him with some of that patience aspect of the game and being able to fine-tune some of it. And when you're that fast, when your guy runs a 4.28 40, I'm going to give you a little bit of credit right now with your route running. I'm going to give you, not credit, but a little leeway. Really, really hard to be a guy who can put your foot in the ground and just break that thing off immediately. There are very few guys in the league who can do it at top speed. And that may be part of the reason why he struggled with route running in the past is he's been a guy who's wanted to just pull out balls to the wall speed, and maybe, some coaching and getting more familiar with an NFL scheme will help him kind of dial in his route running, dial in his speed and his tempo, when to be accelerating, when to be pushing, and when to be breaking down and getting into his breaks.
Well, what's asked of him? I mean, that's one of the big things in college. What was asked of him? And you said the highlight film that's featured a lot of verticals.
I wonder if it was asked of him.
That's what's asked of him because you play in in a level of competition where a 4.28 runs past everybody. You huck it, chuck it deep. Why wouldn't you do that? That just seems like a good idea. The other thing is you don't have to be able to run all the routes in the route tree when you're coming in as the third or fourth wide receiver on an NFL football team. You know who's going to be running all those routes? Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You know what he's going to be tasked with doing? Coming in and taking the top off. He's going to be tasked with running through zones. He's going to be tasked with beating one-on-one coverage on the outside. Those are things that he's going to be asked to do. He's not going to be asked to run all the different whip routes and comebacks and everything that everyone's going to expect or want him to run right now. He doesn't need to run those. He has time to develop those. So you're asking him for a specific role, and then you're going to use him that way until he develops the other areas. And then what you're looking at is, could he possibly, if Brandon Ayuk, if you're not able to keep him, could he possibly become the second wide receiver to Deebo Samuel? Yes, because he makes sense opposite of Deebo Samuel. There's a nice contrast there. He continues to take the top off. Deebo operates around the middle of the field. It works. But it also gave him time to develop. So I think that, he's one of those guys that fits, and that's why I don't get too crazy into the route running. I don't get too crazy into certain things. I'm looking for elite traits, because if you have elite traits, things that you do really well as a wide receiver, the other things can come. They can be coached up, especially when you have a talented coaching staff like Kyle Shanahan always puts together. You can go get the most polished player out there, but you know what they're not going to have if they don't have elite traits in college? Elite traits in the NFL.
Very accurate. Very, very, very extremely stupidly accurate. It's hard for me. I have to balance out the route running with everything else because I was a wide receiver who prided himself on the route running, and because I didn't have some of those elite traits that you talk about. I didn't have the big size. I didn't have the big speed. But I had the physicality. I had the intelligence, the IQ, and I had the route running skill. So that's where I made my bread and butter. So, as a wide receiver, I value those things very, very much so.
Yeah.
I value the route running. But there is certain things you can't teach. And as I started coaching, the more and more I realized, right? You can't teach a guy to run a 4.3.
No, and even,
I can teach a guy how to run a better route.
Even on your own high school football team. The other guys there weren't great route runners.
No, but they were very, very fast.
And they got targeted more.
Yes, they did.
That's guess what? It doesn't change.
No,
it doesn't matter if it's high school, college, or the NFL. It doesn't change.
Whether they were open or not, they got targeted because they were fast, they were tall. And quarterbacks trust their fast, tall wide receivers and fast, tall tight ends. I mean, they're gonna do that. Never blamed my quarterback for doing it. It's like, dude, if I was in your position too, I want to throw to my 6'4" wide receiver who's running 4.4s and got a step or two on guys, even if there's safety help over the top. I get it, I understand. And what the funny part was whenever we needed the big first down, I was usually the guy who got targeted because I was the guy who was open. But if it was 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 15, and we got to take the top off the defense, wasn't coming my way, even if I was open.
Big shot potential.
Stunning,
it's big shot potential. Yeah, I mean those things jump off. I mean, the elite traits are a real thing, and that's what you're looking for. You can get guys that are very solid. I mean, if you go into film and you're just looking for the most solid players, that's not what you're looking for in the first 3 rounds. You're looking for guys that have elite traits that can develop. The solid guys come later. That's when you see the Dre Greenlaws. That's when you see the other guys, the Deommodore Lenoir, and you see George Kittle. It's guys that are deemed solid. That's why they didn't think George Kittle had elite traits, but those elite traits, translated. Well,
it's funny. I watched actually some of that his combine coming out because I wanted to try and get an idea of how did people miss on it, and part of it is because he was injured part of that year and missed 5 or 6 games. So people are like, well, there's a lot of things there, but we didn't really get to see a whole lot of him play, and it's Iowa where you're not doing a lot of.
That's why I'm going like this because it's Iowa.
Yeah, but hey, it's funny when you watch his combine, you immediately see. You watch his combine and you see all of it, and it's like, still, how did this guy fall where he fell? Because I watched that combine back and was just like, how do you miss?
Sometimes people are just afraid to think that they are a workout warrior because you didn't see it in film.
It's true.
I mean, that's the thing. He wasn't able to showcase those skills in college.
He was able to showcase the blocking skills in college. I mean, there's
but if you're drafting a guy to be a blocking tight end, are you drafting him before the 5th round?
Probably not.
No, you're not. Charlie Warner, 6th round pick.
Yep.
I mean, Troy Tololo, late round pick. Like this is just what happens. So that's how they visioned him. Yeah, he went out there and had some good times, but it didn't translate in the passing game at Iowa. So people were a little nervous to make that move. And that's the thing. That's when you're looking for those solid players. That's when you're looking for those gems that you're hoping have those elite traits. But early in the thing, you're drafting players that are the crazy good athletes, and that's why those guys are usually boom or bust.
Accurate, and that's usually why that they're boom or bust. Niner by Nature 88 says, I like Trey McBride as well, reminds me of Kittle. My personal opinion is the more I watch film, and after what I watched in the combine today, I don't think it's close. I think it's Trey McBride is the best tight end in this draft, and it's not close. And then there's a lot of other guys that I like underneath that. But I'm starting to hear rumors and whispers that this guy, people are putting a 2nd round grade on him, that this guy is not going to be someone who goes in the 1st round. And there's just too much talent at the wide receiver position, too much talent everywhere else. If that guy somehow fell to round 2, late round 2, oh boy, and it's really hard for me to not, especially if you feel there's wide receivers later in this draft that you really like in the 3rd round, 4th round, etc., that run that speed, do the things you still want to do, take the top off the defense. Really hard to pass up on that because I think this guy's a 1st round talent.
Yeah, he's probably a 1st round talent, but also how are the 49ers shifting their offense?
The other thing,
as the season was progressing, you've seen them go to more 3 wide receiver sets.
And less 2 tight ends.
Less 2 tight end sets. So you're still looking to get another tight end. You're looking to upgrade from Ross Dwelley, but the amount of times that personnel grouping is going to be on the field is slowly dissipating. I think that the 49ers are going to move more towards the receiver. That's why I think that having a receiver with top-end speed to take the top off the defense is something that's going to be important for them, whether they address that in free agency or they do that in the draft or they do that in both areas, because I think going to 4 wide receiver sets where you can use Deebo Samuel, you can use Elijah Mitchell as that extra guy. You can line him out wide, you can line him in the backfield, especially Deebo Samuel, gives you some flexibility to make some personnel groupings for the other team pay. But I think the 49ers have got to continue to do that, especially as the league changes and as you've changed quarterbacks, because now that you've changed to Trey Lance, the personnel groupings that you're putting out there and the way that the defense is going to attack you are completely different from how they attack Jimmy Garoppolo.
Agreed. Diner by Nature, Calvin Austin as well. He wants to know if he's short. I think he's on the shorter side.
I believe he's 5'7".
Yeah, I believe he's
I know I broke him
tiny.
down.
They have him at 5'8", Ant, but he's in that 5'8", 5'7" range.
Calvin Austin, 5'7", 173 pounds, according to my notes.
Correct. 4.32 40, 39-inch vertical leap, and 135 on the broad jump. So measurables are all nice, but measurables are nice, and being 5'8" don't necessarily always translate in that up.
Here's my breakdown. I did think he played bigger than 5'7".
He does play bigger than 5'7",
but I thought he was track fast, which means I didn't see it ultimately translate to the field every single time. Good after the catch, so that he had that going for him. Doesn't slow down to catch the ball, which I thought was important.
That's very important.
The questions for him: blocking, playing against lesser competition, his body control, and being undersized and taking hits over the middle.
That's a big issue. That is a big issue. You're not wrong. All of those things are not wrong there.
Because you're looking at, if you're just looking at the talent, just what he can do, in some offenses, he's never going to have those moments where he's over the middle. This is the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is going to live in that area because we run a lot of play action. So Calvin Austin's going to have to be able to take, hits over the middle. Is he a dynamic talent? Absolutely. But are the 49ers trending away from these little speedy receivers? I believe they are.
I think they would prefer to get a big, tall wide receiver and do what the speedy wide receiver does and also block.
Yes.
That's what they want.
When you're looking at a Christian Watson, for instance, 6'5", 211 pounds, who runs look at faster than Calvin Austin. So
faster than Calvin Austin. Alec Pierce, 6'3", Drake London, 6'5". I mean, those guys are all going to be able to do the same things as a Austin, except be a lot bigger. Can jump just as high.
Yeah,
they're going to have longer arms. They can go high point the football.
I don't know if Pierce and London can run the things that Watson runs, because Watson's smoother, like on reverses.
True.
On things that are like a little bit more versatile. They have better body control than Christian Watson down the field. So the jump balls and stuff like that, Pierce, London, better.
100%.
So I think those are things that I look at too, is if you're looking for, that's one of the reasons I really liked Chase Claypool. Because when you put the ball in the air, the body control, he floated to the football. His head was quiet. He was able to get his hands on the ball. It was impressive. I think that when it comes to, some of these other guys, they're not as impressive with that body control. And so I think Watson has good body control, but not to the level of Pierce and London. Those are the areas where those guys are better than him.
And speaking of Watson.
Yeah, so here you go.
There you go.
I mean, good adjustment to the football.
Good
nice
find,
catch.
Good location. And look, the route running here looks a lot better than anything I've seen on tape. Shocked, Ant. They prepped for the combine.
So you mean a tremendous athlete is going to get better at doing football skills?
I'm absolutely stunned.
I feel shocked.
I'm super stunned about this. There's a lot of things going on here. A lot of questions. Some people starting to bring up tight ends as well.
Okay, good.
Jaley said Dulich at a UCLA or both Iowa State tight ends later in the draft. Here's the only problem with Dulich. If you listened at all to the NFL Network broadcast, this is their tight end one. They are hyping this guy up. He's the number one tight end in the entire draft class, is what they truly believe, Ant. And so because of that, because they believe this guy is tight end one, I don't think this is a guy you can get late in the draft. This guy's probably going to go in the second and third round, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
I don't dislike that though. I think he's that kind of talent. I had him. I think I had him at a 4th round grade, is what I thought based off film, and that was only because I had questions about some of the measurables and some of the things that I wanted to see a little bit more out of. A lot of his highlights are not of him blocking and things of that nature. He had himself a nice day at the combine today. Showed a lot of things. Surprised me with the speed, and a couple of the other things that I saw out of him, the fluidity on some of his routes and things of that nature, were very nice. This is a guy that's definitely jumped up into one of my more favorite tight ends now in this draft. But there's still questions there. There's still questions with him and what he can be. Jelani Woods probably had the best day at the combine. He definitely helped his draft stock at the tight end position the most out of everyone else. Cole Turner is like Kittle type. Cole Turner did not have a good day today. A lot of drops. Struggled with his 40 time a little bit. Wasn't a great showing for him, but I still like a lot of the things I've seen on film from Cole Turner.
I think here's the problem with the tight end position. I don't think the 49ers are going to go high to draft a tight end, number one.
No.
So I don't think you'll see it until it's mid-rounds, when the 49ers get into that 5th. Maybe a 3rd-round comp pick, but they didn't even do that in this last draft where there was tight ends that fit their system perfectly.
There were a lot of them, too.
Yeah, so I think that they're not going to go that way. What they might do, though, is they might go with a more hybrid-style guy in free agency. An Evan Ingram or somebody like that. They might be able to shell out a little bit of cash because we've seen them do that before already with Jordan Reed, where they were able to go with that in a power slot. The question is, do they value that now that they have Jawan Jennings playing wide receiver?
True.
Don't know. I think this is going to be something to watch during free agency if they go and attack. This is a heavy tight end class. I mean, just some of the guys that they have in the tight end position. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. So I think that the 49ers might address it in free agency, and if they don't, then yeah, we got to keep an eye on it in the draft. But I don't think they're going high with the tight end in any means.
And it's Jay Hill's favorite thing to do. It's verticals.
Oh, just yeah. Jay Hill just be out here throwing. He thinks he's throwing bombs. It's going like 20 yards.
That's your boy Phillips.
Yeah, I do like Kyle Phillips a lot. Just laid out for the ball.
Effort.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's not what he's going to be asked to do in the next level.
No, Anto. We've watched a lot of film on Kyle Phillips, and I've watched a heavy amount of film on Kyle Phillips in the last 2 days since you sent me over the highlight clip, because you know I haven't done all my wide receiver prep yet, and said, here you go, and sent me this just to get me a little bit excited. I watched that clip, rushed through the rest of the edge rushers so I could start wide receivers. Boy, oh boy, do I like a lot of things he does. In fact, I texted you, has Kyle Shanahan written all over him, man.
Yeah. Kyle Phillips is a fun guy to watch. I mean, 100%. He really is. He was one of the most exciting guys for me to watch when I turn on the film, because the things that he does, he gave me some real Julian Edelman vibes. I mean, that's what he did. He's talented, and now that he put together a 4.5 speed to go with it, he's a very formidable option for a lot of teams. I know right now he's ranked about the 162nd best player in the draft, which means you can get him in the late 4th, early 5th. So as a late round guy, this guy could be a lot of potential. But the way that he's able to move and find areas and zones to sit down. Remember Trent Taylor, and now Kyle Shanahan went that role and that route. This guy's a better version. He's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger. So I think that this is a guy
he might be shiftier.
Oh, he's definitely shiftier. He's just a better talent overall.
I agree with you on that there. Android user, what if Kittle gets injured? Dwelly and Warner aren't quality depth. I actually disagree with that. I think Warner is coming into his own and is developing fairly nicely, especially as a blocking option for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Dwelly, obviously, I have my hiccups and issues with him. The problem is where are the Niners going? What direction is the offense taking? Is the second tight end as valuable as it was in 2020? The 2020 year, Jordan Reed got brought in specifically so you had that power slot sort of role, a guy who could block when you needed him to, but be an elite pass catching option next to George Kittle. This year, started off the season that way, and then very quickly shifted away from it, and it became more important to have the third wide receiver on the field with Trey Lance. Someone had asked this earlier in the chat too. Is 4 wide receivers, would that help Trey? I don't know if it necessarily hurts Trey.
No, it spreads the field.
Yeah.
It leaves more avenues for your run game to be able to get going. I mean, that's part of the reason. If you look back at when Deebo Samuel was running the football in this season, a lot of times it was 4 wide receiver sets. It was times where they were using Kyle Juszczyk maybe as a lead blocker. But that's the other thing. Kyle Juszczyk can play tight end in a pinch. He can play that role. You could go 3 wide receivers with Kyle Juszczyk and Deebo Samuel on the field, and then you have a lot of different avenues to go with. You're not wrong. You want to make sure you have good depth behind George Kittle. This is what we talked about before. You have to make sure you have somebody.
Donald Johnson. I'm feeling if the Niners get McBride, let me go to this. I'm feeling if the Niners get McBride, they might trade Kittle. I could be wrong, but they are not afraid to trade someone to save money. There's only one problem. They don't save that much money to trade George Kittle, and George Kittle is not going anywhere.
They don't save much at all because they take a $12 million cap hit. If you're going to have $12 million in dead money to trade George Kittle, you better be getting a huge haul back. And what exactly are they going to get back that's going to benefit their football team in 2022?
As much as I like Trey McBride is not George Kittle. He's not George Kittle.
No.
It's not what he is.
I mean, we need to realize what George Kittle is. George Kittle is one of the elite players in the league. George Kittle is on a path to be a Hall of Fame tight end in this league.
You do not trade that.
Not right now. If you want to come to me in 2 years and say, hey, we could get this for George Kittle. It'll free up this kind of cap space. It's time for us to move in a different direction. I'll listen.
We'll have a conversation then.
I'll have a conversation about it. But not right now, not with a win right now football team, and not with a cap of $12 million a hit against the cap. No, can't do it.
Did he or did he not just almost post a 1,000-yard season after missing 4 games?
Yeah, but people are acting like he fell off.
He almost posted a 1,000-yard season and missed 4 games. What are people talking about?
Yeah, he didn't fall off. And you know what he did? He made that catch against the Packers, huge play in that football game. Did he drop a pass as well? Yeah, he did. But no, you're not moving off George Kittle. George Kittle he's literally ingrained in the fabric that is the 49ers' current roster.
Power fitness is an interesting question, and I'm going to let you take this because I think it's a silly question, but I'll let you take it nonetheless. Power fitness has got 5 minutes. Sell me on Kyle Shanahan at 39-42 for overall record.
2 NFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance.
Name another coach in the league A handful. Name me coaches in the league that are doing that.
Well, when you take over a team in 2017 that had the roster that they had, coming off Jim Tomsula, coming off Chip Kelly and Trent Baalke, and you have to completely reshape that entire roster, break it completely down, and then you get to the Super Bowl in 2019, and you have the catastrophic season that you did in 2020, and then you respond again with another late playoff run with a quarterback is not an elite talent. That proves that you're a good football coach. Stop taking into consideration. I know all the time, right? Jimmy's win-loss record shouldn't matter. So why does Kyle's? So if you're going to have that argument, you have to have that argument with the coach as well. Let's look at the production of what happened. Be consistent. Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way, right? 2017 and 2018. If you're going to hold those over Kyle Shanahan's head, you're going to hold those over his head. That's fine. You can. Not the same rosters in 2019 and 2021 that you had in 2017 and 2018. Not even close to the same rosters.
No.
Brian Hoyer at quarterback. That's what we're going to base it off.
Goodwin and Garcon at wide receiver. You had a lot of holes along the offensive line. The defensive line, of course, definitely not as good.
McDonald, a tight end?
Yeah, Vance McDonald. I mean, that's
nothing wrong with it.
Well, you were also transitioning from a 3-4 defense that you were running, before that with Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, and them. You're translating that to a 4-3 defense that you're not going to run in Robert Saleh. You're also transitioning to a cover 3 defense when you were running a more of a cover 2 defense before. So many changes. You had to bring in your players and your talent. I think if the 2020 season wouldn't have been marred by injury, this wouldn't even be a talking point.
No, the only reason this is a talking point, Power Fitness, 39-42, shake my head. The only reason you can say that right now is because we lost 33 starters.
Saying 39-42, did he say it again?
Yeah, he said it again.
Well, that means he wasn't open to having his mind changed.
Exactly.
He's literally sitting there, changed my mind with his coffee mug. He had
he's changed my mind with a coffee mug, but he doesn't actually want his mind changed.
No,
he wants us to ramble on about it, which is, hey, you do you.
No, I'm fine. If you have a problem with Kyle Shanahan, go find another coach that's going to do that. That's going to get you into 2 NFC Championship games within 3 years.
And rebuild after 2 seasons?
You know who? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there that can't do that.
2 winning seasons in 6 years. I'm trying so hard to believe. Doesn't feel like it.
Well, no, I mean, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to believe. I mean, it really doesn't.
It doesn't feel like you're believing.
I mean, if you don't want the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, I mean, because that's what Kyle Shanahan has given you 2 of the last 3 years. If you don't want that opportunity, then you're going to move on.
2020 just needs to be washed. I mean, 49ers fans who can't get over 2020, you need to. You need to get over it. At the end of the day, how are you supposed to build a team to compete and win a Super Bowl when you lose 30 players off of that roster and more than half of them were starters or key contributors to your roster? It's impossible to compete at a high level.
Well, the problem is the higher standard that's been put on these coaches, and part of that reason is like somebody like Jim Harbaugh, for instance, right? He takes over in 2011 with a ready-made roster.
That team was ready to compete.
What they had was a bad coach in Mike Singletary, a very bad coach, but it had a very good roster.
He was an incredible disciplinarian.
And this is also before Trent Baalke is able to get his paws and claws into that roster, so it had already been built by somebody else. So they come in, and Harbaugh has a ready-made team, and he does a great job. Let's not get that twisted. He's a good football coach. He did a great job with that roster. But that roster in 2011, if you put that in 2017 and Kyle Shanahan takes over, Kyle Shanahan's absolutely going to the NFC Championship game. I have no doubt in my mind.
Well, he's not. He's going to the NFC Championship game that year. They're probably going to the Super Bowl in 2018. They're repeating in 2019.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that actually, if you had John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan for the 2011 team, not only would they have went past the NFC, they would have went to the Super Bowl, because John Lynch would have made the necessary wide receiver moves that Trent Baalke was afraid to make. Instead, Trent Baalke brought in Brett Swain instead of bringing in Terrell Owens and Randy Moss late in that season like he should have, after Braylon Edwards was a failed experiment.
You and I remember you, me, and Horst sitting on the couch looking at this roster, watching games and being like, God, man, can we just go get Randy Moss and Terrell Owens? This is one of the few times I've actually heard you. I remember this because I said, dude, what about T.O.? And it was one of the first times I think I've ever, since he left San Francisco, where it's like, dude, if we signed T.O. tomorrow, we'd be going to the Super Bowl.
Yes, because it wasn't so much that T.O. was the same player he was before. It's that T.O. was 10 times better than Brett freaking Swain. You have to put
T.O. is still better than Brett Swain.
You have to put together the best 53-man roster. And T.O. and what the funny part is, right, they didn't want to sign Randy Moss. Randy Moss wanted to come back. But they signed him for 2012. Thanks a lot, Baalke. We could have won the Super Bowl the year before.
It's true. Power Fitness, where is the great Kyle Shanahan in the fourth quarter in big games, guys?
Depends on which big game you're talking about.
We talking about the Packers? We talking about the Cowboys? We talking about the Saints game? We're talking about
if you're talking about the fourth quarter of the Packers in 2019, he was sipping on tea because he had already dominated for a full 4 quarters. And the thing is I know what's going to get thrown into it next. This is going to be the Atlanta game. Well,
he's going to go back to it. He's going to go all the way back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Then he's going to go back to this 2019 Super Bowl, and then he's going to go back to this last season against the Rams.
Because it's obvious when you have a lead and more than a 10-point lead that it's your offense's fault.
Can we just be honest about this? Can we be honest about this NFC Championship game? The game entirely shifted in terms of being able to cover and pass throws and things the minute Dre Greenlaw went out of the football game.
Oh, it was different. Yeah. I mean,
everything shifted.
Do I think Kyle Shanahan has to carry blame for the times he's head coach and they give up a loss?
Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
Because he's the head coach, and that's what you do. You wear it. When that is overall, it's your decisions that, if you want something done differently on defense, you have to make that call. But when he's an offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons and you're winning 28-3, that one cannot be put on Kyle Shanahan.
No. 49ers George 365 with another $4.99 super chat. Brett Swain, oh my God, kill me. That's like Adam Walker at halfback and fumbled the playoffs against the Packers in the 90s. Oh my.
Hey, worst number 18, Brett Swain or Dante Pettis?
That's tough, bro. That's tough. It has to be Brett Swain, right? Because Dante Pettis, there was hope at one point, right? There was hope, and then it just didn't.
So you think Brett Swain's a better 18 than Dante Pettis?
No, but Dante Pettis is the better 18. I thought you said which is the bigger bust.
Oh, okay.
The bigger, I would say Swain. Yeah. Swain is the bigger letdown of the two.
Yeah.
Because
I still can't believe that there's the moment, right, where Alex Smith against New Orleans he's getting the guys ready, and then he takes a deep shot to Brett Swain. The next play, it's burning on the slants, and he outruns the safety, and he gets the big yardage to get him in field goal range. But it's like, you just threw the ball to Brett Swain with an Aaron Rodgers style haircut. What are you doing? And that mustache too. It looked like a CHP that had given up on life. It was just so bad.
Oh God, Luke Luna, $2 super chat, tattooing and listening, love and respect, guys. Love you too, Luke.
What is up,
Thanks
Luke?
for tuning in, man. We appreciate it. If we have a losing season, is Kyle on the hot seat? Power Fitness, yeah. Because you made the move for Trey Lance, you traded the draft capital. The future of the 49ers is resting on Trey Lance's shoulders right now. And your front office and your head coach, put that pressure there and put that onus on this young kid. So yeah, you have to play well. You have to execute.
I think there's no hot seat until after the season.
Correct, not during the year.
If this fails miserably, and I'm not talking like Trey does well and they almost make the playoffs. I'm talking like this fails miserably.
Trey,
you're putting Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat. You're putting John Lynch on the hot seat.
Everyone's on the hot seat.
But that's why when people said Kyle Shanahan was on the hot seat, now it's like, no, they bought time when they drafted Trey Lance, because Trey Lance has to either prove he's good. When you draft a guy or you make a move for a guy, you are now tethered to that guy. So that guy has to play well, or of course you're going to be going out the door. But when you go to NFC Championship games like that, when you get to a Super Bowl, it does indefinitely give you more rope. It allows you more time.
Supposed to, anyway.
It does. I mean, let's be honest. Jed York went through those days.
Correct.
He's not looking to get a Tomasulu or a Chip Kelly. He knows what he's got now.
I think that's the only good news, right, is that he's actually learned from some of those mistakes. There are owners who don't. There are owners who don't.
The one thing I'm wondering is at what point, and I don't know when that's going to happen, Jed York does like his uncle used to do and just goes, we have to win, go all in. And I haven't seen that yet. And that's what I'm waiting for. Is him to just be like, you know what? Because Eddie D, the only thing he hated in life, or the thing he hated the most, was losing.
That's
true. He wanted to win. And I'm waiting for Jed to get that attitude like, I have to win. And when he does, I think they will.
Alec Pierce here, guys. Kyle Phillips just ran a very nice route. Alec Pierce there. Wasn't bad. You got to find.
Definitely didn't locate the ball early, but it wasn't that great of a throw either.
I will say this: the throws from the quarterback in this draft combine for both the tight ends and the wide receivers have not been impressive. I have not been impressed at all with it.
Jimmy Garoppolo's stock just went up.
every quarterback. John Lynch right now is sipping tea. This is what's been so funny. We put out our Jimmy video today.
Yeah.
I posted in the Facebook groups, and a lot of people were absolutely losing their mind in the Facebook groups over this, man. Jimmy, there is no value. He's injured. No team wants him. He's hot garbage. I'm like, you guys, I don't think everyone understands quite how bad this quarterback draft is. it is not good.
Well,
The quarterbacks that have potential, and they need time. They need 2 to 3 years of time. And the teams we're talking about teams that need quarterbacks this year, or a quarterback away from making the playoffs, if not contending and competing.
Well, I think what's crazy is there's the people that think Jimmy's not worth anything, and there's people that think Jimmy's worth a first-round pick, or the people that think Jimmy's going to be on the team this year.
Or that, the Niners...
There are literally people that think that.
He has no value and they just need to cut him and cut their losses.
Yeah, they don't want to cut him. They're going to trade him. But what they get is going to be somewhere in the middle. I mean, this is what we talked about in the video.
So you mean the first round pick is a little crazy. He's not worth anything. They're going to cut him. It's crazy. And it's probably somewhere in that 3 to 4 range.
Yeah, I think so. I think they could end up getting, Adam Schefter, who's pretty tied in, he said that there is interest in Jimmy Garoppolo. I believe a 3rd round pick this year and a 4th round pick in 2023 is something that is realistic for Jimmy Garoppolo.
You're not wrong, Ant. You are not wrong there. Only 1 foot down there for Mr. Turner out of West Virginia. Look, it wasn't just wide receivers. There were also, Ant, there were also tight ends today. The top 40-yard in the tight end was Chingo Okonkwo. I apologize, sir. Out of Maryland, a guy who kind of came out of nowhere. No one was expecting a lot of, and Christian Watson time for the cutback crew. You can enjoy some route running and way to find the ball. Space.
Another wonderful throw from the quarterback.
Well, what you mean behind and late on the throw with all these quarterbacks? These quarterbacks have not been throwing well.
That one was pretty good.
That was nice. That was actually nice. Jelani Woods was the next guy on the 40-time list. 4.61, had himself a nice day. My favorite tight end in the entire draft, and Grant Calcaterra out of SMU, 4.62. Daniel Bellinger out of San Diego State had himself a nice day. 4.63. Greg Dulcich out of UCLA, 4.7. Connor Hayward ran a 4.72. Cole Turner, a 4.76 out of Nevada. Peyton Hendershot, 4.8 out of Indiana. Jake Ferguson, tight end out of Wisconsin, 4.81. And a number that surprised you was Austin Allen out of Nebraska, 4.83. 6'8".
It wasn't surprising that he ran 4.8 because that's what he looks like on film. I think I was just hoping there was going to be an improvement because I actually like him as a big target. He lacked a little bit of the athletic ability that I like, so he wasn't popping. I've only just started breaking into my tight ends, but he was somebody that I got wind of and I was looking at. I was looking at Nebraska. I posted on Twitter about the Nebraska's linebacker / corner / whatever he is. That is obviously going to end up with New England, but anyways, they got some talent at the tight end position, but I think it is finding a complete tight end is a little bit more difficult in this draft.
Extremely difficult.
So you're kind of like looking to see what you're going to find. Do you want to get a receiving tight end? Somebody that can fit into that role, more take over the Ross Dwelley. He could fill that part of George Kittle's role and then have, once again, like we talked about, have a guy behind him that fills the blocking. So you have your 2 guys. The question is, though, do you already have that guy on the roster? You already have the guy. Is Jordan Matthews that guy? Can he fulfill the receiving parts of the tight end route? It's now an entire year as a tight end, entire year with the 49ers organization and the practice squad, everything. Is he now ready to take on that Ross Dwelley role and presumably be a lot cheaper?
Extremely cheaper, and extremely cheaper. And you don't have to necessarily go after and address tight end, especially if you can't get the complete tight end that you'd like behind George Kittle. If you want a complete tight end behind George Kittle, because and you think of, the only one I can think of that's close to that is McBride.
Kyle Rudolph.
Oh, I meant in the draft class. Now we're talking free agencies, and you're right. But we don't want to spoil next week's content.
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying, you said complete tight end, and I thought Kyle Rudolph.
You're not wrong there.
And you know what Kyle Rudolph's trying to do?
He's trying to get a Super Bowl in it.
He's trying to win.
That's why he's out of New York with the Giants.
Oh, of course he was. He was like, wait, we had the whole entire University of Washington Huskies wide receiver group here. We knew that wasn't going to work out for us.
Tommy Huxley with the trade. Kittle says Grant with a nice laughing, crying face emoji. Tommy, welcome, my guy. Welcome.
Yeah, everyone knew what that was, right? The people didn't really take that seriously.
JLA, was that in response to my sold tweet or done with Grant Cohn today, where someone said someone Ant is reporting that they need to sweeten the deal for Jimmy Garoppolo in trade talks, and Grant said you can throw me in with Jimmy Garoppolo to sweeten the deal, and I said done. I'll take that. Bye.
Yeah.
See you later. Actually, probably, we joked about this pre-show. It actually probably might be good for Grant. He could keep the clickbait up.
A bunch of negative stuff is coming out on Twitter. I mean, a bunch of false stuff. Right? I seen today that it was Jimmy Garoppolo for a 3rd and a 4th was going to happen. I've also seen today that Jimmy Garoppolo's people have found a team. They've decided where they want to go, and now the 49ers and that team are working it out. I've seen that. There's so much misinformation going on right now.
Stunning.
That, you know what that means? That's good. That means trade talks are actually happening.
That does mean trade
because
talks
when
are
misinformation starts coming out and you start hearing sweetening the deal and stuff like that, it's posturing. Teams are posturing. What that also means is they believe there are other suitors for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a good situation for the 49ers.
It's not a bad situation for the 49ers, and definitely is not a bad situation there. Lay out Kyle Phillips would.
Do you think there's any world where he doesn't get traded?
No, he's getting traded.
Yeah, I mean,
I know John Lynch.
They would do it.
I know John Lynch came out and said, right? Oh, we've prepared for a situation in which we restructure Jimmy and do some stuff with his contract to keep him around in 2022. Like they're saying that, but they don't mean that. There's no world in which Jimmy Garoppolo is in San Francisco. Super Bowl was the only way Jimmy was going to stay. That was it. Jimmy Garoppolo wins the Super Bowl with the 49ers. There was no guarantee. And even then, well, if you win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, you can get a 1. You probably could get a 1 at that point. Because now he's done the thing that everyone is, can you win a Super Bowl? He's done it. That was the only way you could get him first. But it was the less likely scenario of him leaving was winning a Super Bowl because it pushes everything off, right? You've won your Super Bowl with Jimmy. You've been there 2 of the last 3 years with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can afford to roll at least 1 more year with him and give Trey the time. That ship has sailed.
Well, and the one thing, too, that people got to remember is there's a perception of Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco land and in 49ers Twitter, and then there's a perception of him around the league. Greg Cosell was on with Matt Miyoko, and he was talking about the perception of Jimmy Garoppolo around the league. And around the league, talent evaluators and front office personnel talk about how good Jimmy Garoppolo is around the middle of the field. In fact, they say that the throws he makes are elite-style throws in the tight windows that he throws in, and that a lot of people have a lot of respect for the fact that he throws it and is not worried about taking those chances and taking those risks. And so I think that amongst those people, he's very well respected. You throw in the fact that not only do coaching staffs, but also his team also really love him and what he can do. I think that goes a long ways because you want a proven leader. You want a proven winner. He's proven to do that. If you think that you can institute a similar style offense, or you're trying to, like the Denver Broncos, get into the playoffs and be able to compete with some of these teams like Nathaniel Hackett is trying to do, you might be willing to take on Jimmy Garoppolo. The one thing I will agree with most people on, though, is I believe the price for Jimmy Garoppolo has went down a little bit. I think we were hoping they were going to be able to get a 2nd-round pick. I do believe it's going to be a 3rd or a 4th-round pick, probably a couple of picks, but I think they're going to start at the 3rd-round range. If they get higher than that, I would be absolutely ecstatic, but I think that's kind of the going rate for what Jimmy Garoppolo is going to garner.
It's very fair. Jay Elliott asks, is there a 3rd-string quarterback worth drafting in this year's draft?
I haven't broke down quarterbacks yet, but if I had to throw somebody out there, somebody to be on the 90-man roster that you could get late in the draft, Dustin Crum. I liked him last year. I still like him now.
Yep, that would be the name.
And he ran a 4.7, so I mean he's still athletic. He's a big guy. He's got an interesting throwing motion.
Very interesting.
So it's interesting, but you're talking about a late round taking a flyer on someone. You're not really going to draft someone early in this draft.
If the Niners are taking a quarterback, it's not before round 5. It'd be round 6 or round 7, and that's the only name I can think of in that late in this draft that makes sense. If you're going to do that, the most likely scenario is signing a free agent quarterback. And we got free agent content coming out all next week. And we're going to talk about some backup options at the quarterback position to sit behind Trey Lance, because the reality of the situation is, until another move is made, Trey Lance is most likely QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers in 2022.
I would say it's over 90%.
At this point, I agree with
that. Trey Lance is going to be the starting quarterback. I only say 90% because there's that outside possibility. And now with all the information coming out where it appears Tom Brady and Sean Payton were trying to get to Miami together, it appears that maybe there's still that Tom Brady still planned on playing. I want to keep that open, but I think there is now an opportunity for him to go to another football team. So it might not be the 49ers, but I just want to, but I do think it's going to be Trey Lance. I would be kind of surprised at this point if it's not Trey Lance starting quarterback.
I would be stunned as well. And I'm sorry, tight ends in the combine. We got away from some stuff. So let's go through verticals for the tight ends. Isaiah Likely at Coastal Carolina, and shockingly, one of the more athletic prospects in this draft at the tight end position. Definitely a pass catching option. Mm-hmm. Not much in the run blocking area for Isaiah Likely. 36-inch vertical. Chingo Okonkwo, gosh darn it, I will get your name right at some point, sir. Out of Maryland, the guy who leads the pack in the 40, 35.5 on the vertical. Curtis Hodges out of Arizona State, 34.5, which is actually big because he's 6'7". 6'7" dude, long arms, so a nice 34.5 vertical. Daniel Bellinger out of San Diego State, 34.5 as well. Austin Allen out of Nebraska, big 6'8" guy, ran that 4.7, 4.8-ish 40 time, 34-inch vertical leap though.
Yeah, I mean, so he's a little bit athletic, but he's a late round guy now, and that's the thing is you have a guy like that and he's going to be in the late rounds. Do you want to take a flyer on him? Maybe. But would you rather go after somebody like Blake Bell, in free agency? So I think you're going to have some decisions to make there, but the tight end room for me, or the tight end draft class, doesn't jump off the board. I think there's a couple guys here and there, but finding a complete tight end is a little bit harder. I thought the tight end class was better last year.
Definitely was.
There's some talent this year, but not to the level it was last.
No, definitely not to the level that it was last year at all. So there's some guys there, and then in the 3 cone, you had Austin Allen, who actually leads the pack out of all the tight ends. And now it looks like not every tight end chose to run the 3 cone. So you had some finagling there and some shenanigans there. But Austin Allen, of the guys who ran it, and that included guys who ran it, Greg Dulcich, Cole Turner, Curtis Hodges, Daniel Bellinger, Jake Ferguson, Chase Allen, Jeremiah Hall. Those are the names that ran it, as well as Austin Allen. Austin Allen ran it in 7 seconds.
Yeah, and that's something that we know Kyle Shanahan looks at a lot.
Sure.
That's something it's one of the most important things to him, actually more important than the 40-yard dash. So to me, that's a good sign for him if he thinks, or if the 49ers are interested in him. He's just somebody that I started watching film on. I don't know if I'm that sold on him yet, but I'm going to watch some more film. I'm just getting into the tight ends.
Yeah, just getting into the tight ends. You are, Ant. Most of my tight end work is done. There's still a couple of names after having watched the combine today that I want to reevaluate and take a look at again and look at some more film, because there's some couple things that surprised me on a couple of them, and some other things that didn't surprise me at all whatsoever, including a handful of names, Ant, that I, after watching about a quarter of stuff, was just like, it's not happening. The Niners they're not going to go after this guy. And then confirmed today with their combine performance. So I feel a lot better about some
Have
of
you
this.
had a breakdown where you put
I haven't had an ad breakdown. You have had one of those. I haven't had an ad breakdown, but I literally have a breakdown that says everyone is high on this man. No, the 49ers are not drafting this guy.
Yeah.
It's just, I have a couple of those.
There's some guys that just don't fit the scheme. They don't fit what the 49ers do, and they don't make sense. So those ones you have to move off of.
Correct, Ant. And now they're working on a back corner of the end zone throw and catches currently at the moment. So give the cutback crew a little bit of the flashy and the flair. It could have been a nice catch there if the ball was placed a little bit better.
Yeah, he wouldn't have got his feet in either.
Probably.
I think this is Roberson, right?
Yeah, this is Roberson here.
Oh, too high.
Too high. It's been like that with a handful of throws. Too high on a few of them there. George Pickens just had a nice one that kind of tiptoed on the sideline there, which surprisingly, Ant, to make those kind of catches. He's a big guy. Let's see here. Let's try to see if we had a couple other questions here. It doesn't look like we have a lot of questions there. But look, the tight end class is a little bit weaker this year. The wide receiver class is definitely deep in terms of the speed aspect and being able to take the top off the defense and the athleticism. Right. The athleticism is off the chart in this group. The real question is going to be, does that athleticism translate onto the field? And I think there's a handful of guys that is the case, Ant. There's probably a good 10 guys or so that could have a big impact. And for the 49ers, it's, can you get one of those 10 guys, get them on your roster, and have them make an impact this year, right now, right away, as a rookie? We're going to see and we're going to find out. Quarterbacks in the 40, you had Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati, who led the way, 4.49. E.J. Perry out of Brown with a 4.6. Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh, who the big talking point today was his very, very tiny small hands, and with a 4.67. Dustin Kroon with the 4.75. Brock Purdy out of Iowa State with 4.76. Bailey Zappi, a quarterback that I actually do like a lot, out of Western Kentucky, 4.78. That's where those times were there. Look, quarterback and measurables with all of this other stuff. I mean, some of it's important, some of it's not. It doesn't usually have as big of an impact as some of these other positions in terms of measurables and things that they do there. But look, I'm excited. I'm excited for the combine. I'm excited for covering all of the things that are going on. I'm excited to recap all of this. Monday's episode, the daily, they're not going to want to miss. Monday, we're going to break down some of the best performers from the combine, some of the biggest moments, and maybe some guys that didn't necessarily surprise as much as we wanted to on Monday. That's going to be the 11 a.m. episode. You're not going to want to miss that. And then as soon after that episode goes live, just a few hours later, Ant, we're going full into free agency. Every single position, every guy the Niners could target, whether they're a 49er or not. Free agency content kicks off in a big way next week.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you have to be, because you're right on the edge. You're right there. Free agency is going to get going, and we have to start talking about some of the players the 49ers could go after. I don't know how many big, high-priced free agents the Niners are going to go after, but the second and third wave guys, yeah, they could bring in some cheap options, some guys that could really benefit the football team, because there are players that are out there that are going to be on the cheap that they can bring in and make this roster a lot better. It's about improving the, all 53 guys. It's not just about improving the starters. Yeah, you want to improve the starters, but you want to improve the depth too. So I think this is going to be something to watch. It's going to be an exciting time. And the whole time we're going to be hanging on who the Niners are bringing back. Are they bringing back their own free agents, or are there other guys they're going to be bringing back? We're going to get a very good idea how they're shaping this roster, and then after that, then we can fill in the gaps, for the draft. But free agency is going to set the tone for the entire offseason. Looking forward to doing that because we know March 16th is the start of the new league year, and that is also when Jimmy Garoppolo's trade is gone. His trade clause is gone, so they can trade him to whoever they want at that point. So I think at that point, he will get moved. They do have to be underneath the salary cap by March 16th, which means there needs to be some sort of a move because they're about $4.5 million over the cap right now.
Accurate Avatar. We'll see you later, my guy. Tommy, are the Lambs going to run it back? They said they're going to. They said they're going to try. Sean McVay turned down a reported $100 million contract from Amazon Prime to be their announcer and color commentator to run it back and stick around. Apparently, their first things they're trying to do is re-sign Aaron Donald and re-sign Matt Stafford. Well, not re-sign, extend them both, that you have them for a little bit longer. So I think they're going to try and run this back for another 3 or 4 years. So you got to deal with the Rams for another 3 or 4 years, which was always the anticipation.
Well, they have to extend those guys so they have enough money to bring back Von Miller and OBJ. Because if you don't, I mean, that's one of the key things that Aaron Donald wants is for them to be back. He wants to bring everyone back. If everyone's not coming back, he doesn't want to come back. I think they're going to try. But when you do that, when you run it back like that, you run the risk of somebody else getting better than you because they weren't exactly the most dominant team on the way. This isn't the 1989 San Francisco 49ers winning the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos by, a 55-10, margin and dominating everyone along the way. So when you run it back in 1990, that makes sense. When you win the NFC Championship by 3 with a quarterback with a bad shoulder and a bad thumb, and then you win the Super Bowl where Joe Burrow, a young guy, has the opportunity to lead them down the field to win.
And was playing with a sprained MCL.
Yeah, I'm actually glad the Rams are going to try to run it back. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Matter of fact, I said this last year, right? Last year I said when the Bucks ran it back that I thought it was a little silly, a little questionable. Yeah, they ran through everybody else. Yeah, they handled the Chiefs pretty well in the Super Bowl. But I kept looking at the team and going, sometimes in your weakest moments are the things that I kind of look at, like who you are at your lowest point. And you guys almost lost to Taylor Heineke in the Washington Commanders now, but at the time was the Washington football team in the playoffs. I did not think that team was light years better than the rest of the NFL at that time. I questioned it. I questioned whether or not that was a smart decision and whether or not you were doing enough to prepare for everything else that was coming up behind you that was going to be coming after you and attacking you. They didn't, and they didn't do those things. And at the end of the day, it blew up a little bit in their face.
Yeah, I think that, they're more likely, teams are more likely to, make that sort of move like Tampa Bay did because they did really dominate Kansas City. You're more than likely to do that. When you dominate in the Super Bowl like that to run it back. But when you have a team that doesn't do that, so yeah, bring them back. Let's see. I want the 49ers to overcome the Rams. And if the Rams are, going to be that good of a football team, maybe they'll even be better. You got to hope that you're a better football team as well. You can't worry about everyone else. You got to worry about yourself. But we do know Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are aware of the fact that these other teams, that it's an arm race, and they got to go out there and get the players needed to compete at a high level.
And you're not wrong there. It's going to be very interesting indeed. Cutback crew, you're not going to want to miss any of the additional content that we got coming out all next week. We got tons of great videos coming out to you this week. What an exciting day one from the NFL Combine, Ant. Tons of speedy wide receivers. Some surprises at the tight end position, and no real surprises from the quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I seen Stovey is asking, any chance we get Christian Watson? It seems his stock is rising a lot. It's going to continue to rise. He just ran a 4.28 at his size.
Highly unlikely.
It's the Niners would have to probably trade up and get him. He's going to be a low first round or late first round, early second round pick at this point. I think he's going to continue to trend up. He's one of those guys that I'm sure will skyrocket. The only thing the Niners got going for him is other guys are going to be trending up too, because other dudes had huge numbers at the combine, so that always helps.
Very true, Stovey. We may or may not be able to get Christian W, but there are tons of other wide receivers with speed, some wide receivers also with some size, and can do a lot of the similar things that he can do. So that's the positives. The positives are there's lots of options and choices, a plethora of them, and we're going to be breaking them down after we get through free agency, and we got to get through that first.
Yep.
So next week is going to be a heavy dose of that. Cutback crew, though, let us know what you thought about all this. Let us know what you thought about day one of the combine, because my goodness gracious, a lot of surprises. Did not expect this wide receiver class to come out and put up the speed numbers that they put up. Some of the route running as well looked a lot cleaned up for a lot of these guys. Definitely some more definitely a deeper wide receiver class than I was thinking it was going to be. And that's a positive thing, because the more wide receivers and edge rushers there are, and the more likely it is that some of these guys are going to slip a little bit later than the Niners can snag up.
Yeah, there's going to be players for the 49ers to be able to grab in the areas where they're going to pick. You throw in the fact that they're probably going to have a pick from Jimmy Garoppolo. When you have 10 picks, I mean, and there's still the possibility Rand Carthon could end up being the general manager of the Steelers. If he is, they will actually incur another third-round compensatory pick. The 49ers are going to have a plethora of picks in this draft, whether it's 9 or 10. I believe it'll be 10 for Jimmy Garoppolo. 10 is plenty enough to be able to move around, maneuver to get the players that you want, because they do have a very talented roster. They don't have that many holes to fill.
No.
But we're not going to get that good idea of what holes need to be filled until after we get out of free agency.
Got to get through free agency first. Cutback crew, we'll see you for all of that content next week. It's going to be exciting. Thanks for the show, guys. Welcome back for show. It's great to be back, Android user. It's great to be posting the daily
Android
content. Appreciate all your support. And Cutback crew, all of your support as well. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not already. Become a new member of the Cutback crew as well. Hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any breaking news, anything like that we go live for. Because starting next week, everything starts to get a little bit more real. On the 13th is officially the non-tampering, is when non-tampering starts, which means teams can start coming in principle, coming to agreements and terms for contracts, which means tons of breaking news, videos coming out when you maybe least expect them, and us breaking in and going live when you least expect it. And the best way to be prepared for all of that is to hit that notification bell and be subscribed to this channel.
Yep. I mean, the free agent frenzy is a real thing. It's going to go crazy. We were one of the first ones to break the Trent Williams news last year. Happened to be, paying attention. And he said that he was going to be back, or kind of implied it with his Instagram post. And we were able to get a video out right away. And same thing with Alex Mack. So I think that, this is something that's always fun, and I'm looking forward to all the different signings, but not just the signings that the 49ers make, but also, if any of their players leave, we're going to have to, talk about those things. If DJ Jones happens to go to another football team, we need to talk about it and the impact that's going to have on the 49ers and how they're going to figure out how to replace him. So it's going to be a lot of fun conversations, and free agency is going to be fun.
Stovey, you were not wrong there. There will be more news on Jimmy next week. There's going to be news on Jimmy, news on free agents, news on what the Niners are doing, moves and things of that nature, all the next few weeks. So we're excited about that. Excited to talk about all of it. Excited to talk about all of it with you. So make sure you're here for all of it. We'll catch you on the next one, Cutback crew. And I think it's about that time.
Yeah, let's chalk another one up.
It's the first time in a while. It has
been a while, yeah.
See y'all tomorrow morning, 11 a.m.